What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to the Meaty Boyz podcast. I know this is normally the duo. It ain't Thursday night, it's Tuesday night. Ladies and gentlemen, as I always introduce him on Thursday, he's the greatest co-host of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Mo Betta. How you doing, Mo?
I'm doing great. Appreciate everybody that's tuning in, checking out the Meaty Boyz podcast. Just excited to talk wrestling, get into it. So let's get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, figure we start off talking some Monday Night Raw. And I thought it was a good week of Raw. We kicked off Raw, Randy Orton, Gunther. They had a fun little segment. Gunther got his revenge for that RKO. And overall, Mo, I'm curious. What do you think so far of the booking for the Gunther Randy Orton feud? Do you like it?
Look, I don't mind it because I think that the setup is going to make it for an entertaining matchup. Even if I think it's anticlimactic, I think it'll be a competitive matchup. But like we all talked about earlier, Gunther's not going to be on a short title reign. He's going to hold that belt for a minute. I have no doubt the Viper will push him, but in the end, I expect the champ to walk out with the belt.
Agreed. I don't think Randy's in any trouble or Gunther's in any trouble of losing his title. I think there's a slim chance they go for the shock finish, but even then, I don't really see that happening. But that wasn't the only thing that happened on Raw. I'm not gonna lie, this was one I was looking forward to. As soon as they interacted, Sheamus and Pete Dunne, they had themselves a banger. Those two, they have a hard-hitting matches, so nothing really big came out of it. But overall, I'd just like to give that match a shout out because it was just a fun little sprint.
That was a good match. The interesting thing, every time I see Pete Dunne in the ring, he's amazing because he's one of those guys that can compete much bigger than his body looks like he can compete. Like Pete Dunne, pound for pound, might be the strongest guy in the WWE. I think he's an amazing performer. I think he's underutilized. I'm not saying give him one of the main belts, but I think he's the kind of talent that should be involved in a bigger storyline.
No, absolutely, and hey, maybe that's coming soon. I got to admit, him feuding with Sheamus, that's a step in the right direction. And with all the people, if there's a non-title feud that you can have, Sheamus is a really good guy to be beefing with.
God, but isn't Sheamus like the ultimate test? Like if you're an up and coming wrestler, if you can brawl, if you can hold your own with Sheamus, to me, that's like a badge of honor, right? Like because that's his whole thing. He can wrestle, but the strength of what Sheamus can do is brawl. If you can hang with him in a brawl like Pete Dunne did, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm just excited. Now I get to talk about maybe my favorite moment of the night because I'm a huge fan of the Wyatt Six. We had Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile. This match wasn't anything special, but the after attack was a lot of fun. Uncle Howdy and crew rolled up. Nikki Cross went after Ivy Nile. Uncle Howdy took out Chad Gable with his sister Abigail. And they've already announced next week on Raw, we're going to get it. Uncle Howdy versus Chad Gable. So I really like them being on Raw and them being the focal points of, Monday nights, instead of, them getting lost on pay-per-view. What do you think so far about the Wyatt Six? Do you think it's the right call to have this big match, on Raw instead of a pay-per-view?
I think so. I think that you could continue to build up the Wyatt Six, but you don't have to put them on pay-per-view yet. So I think you can just build them up on big matches on Raw. I like it. I like it for right now, but I think, as the storyline progresses, you'll see them, in bigger matches and bigger feuds. But I think this is, as Roman Reigns would say, you're closer to the beginning than you are the end. So we'll see.
No, absolutely. And I think that I think we'll see the Wyatt Six add Bash in Berlin too. I think they probably start their next story because I'm sure it wraps up next week with the Alpha Academy with with American Made. I'm sure Uncle Howdy beats Gable and they move on. And I have a theory, Mo, on what's coming next. I think the next target of the Wyatt Six could very well be the new Judgment Day.
That's interesting that you said that. That's really interesting. Only because I actually think that would be a really good feud. I don't think that's one and done. I think that could be a feud that could extend out a little bit longer. So that would be very interesting.
See, I was thinking about it because they're going after they're going after Chad Gable because of the way he treated his family. And I was thinking like, okay, well, you know who else just mistreated their family?
Correct.
Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor and just that whole crew. And it ran up on me. It's because I was thinking, what if they got involved in the mixed tag match? And here's the way I envisioned it. If you want to follow me here for a second, because I think Finn Balor takes Damian Priest out of the match. I think that's a way to build up for Bad Blood. You'd have Finn Balor take out Damian Priest, leaving Rhea alone to fend off against Carlito, JD, with Dom. And that's where I think it would be fun to have the Wyatt Six come out and go after Dom and Carlito and JD and neutralize them and have it allows Rhea off the distraction to pick up the win against Liv Morgan. I think that does multiple things. I think it gives the Wyatt Six some new direction for their feud, and I think that gives Rhea versus Liv another reason to have a rematch. It just strengthens that feud because now Rhea can say without your people ringside, I pinned you, so now we have to have a rematch at Bad Blood. And since Finn was the one that took Damien out of the match, that also gives Finn and Damien a match at Bad Blood. So I think that just in general gives everybody something to do. And I think it'd be perfect for both sides because Dom, Carlito, and JD can afford to take a loss at this point.
Dom can take a loss, but the beauty about Dom is he's got so much heat that I don't think people can see Dom lose enough. Like
Right.
Dom can take a loss and he's still going to have a ton of heat. So yeah, I don't think it's a problem. Carlito, my guess is if anybody's going to get the brunt of a beating of any kind, it'll be Carlito, maybe JD. I'm interested to see what happens eventually with the new Judgment Day in the tag team titles. How long do they hold them, and who's going to take them off their hands?
It could very well be the Wyatt Six. I could see them making like Rowan and Dexter Loomis tag champs or Joe Gacy. Maybe that's part of the judge. Maybe that could also be a reason to attack them as part of their judgment on them. They take away the thing that they dear, which is the tag titles. I think that'd be interesting.
I think if that were to happen, I'd have the strange feeling that the Wyatt Six would hold the belts for a while.
Mm-hmm. I'd say we all know that they can go in tag team action. I think that would absolutely add some, help add legitimacy to the tag titles. And whatever team finally knocks off whichever duo wins the tag titles, they would probably look like $1,000,000.
Yeah, I agree. And I have a question for you. So I know you've been keeping up with the situation with um what's going on with New Day, right?
Yeah.
But can you see the setup coming already in New Day? What's going to happen? Because it seems so obvious if you look at what's happening, where this setup is going. At some point, I think Xavier Woods is going to have a heel turn at some point. The only question is when he has the heel turn, is he going to join what's the other group? The that they're feuding with right now? On the top of my head, I'm just
the new the Final Testament.
right. Would that be the ultimate backstab if he joined the Final Testament?
I hope not. I pray. Like I'm okay with a heel turn from one of them, but I hope it's not to join the Final Testament because the Final Testament just right now it might be the worst thing ever.
They're trying so hard to bring it up and pump it up, and I'm like, you're trying to put gas into something that just it's not working. The Final Testament, that whole thing is not working.
That's been always my beef with like Karrion Kross. It's they try so hard to give him the presentation, they give him everything. It just doesn't work. The issue is at some point he has to talk on a mic, which isn't that interesting. At some point he has to wrestle, which his matches are the farthest thing from interesting. Like, I think the Final Testament would be a great idea. I just don't think Karrion Kross is just that guy. I don't think he's going to get over enough for it to work. I love Paul Ellering and the Authors of Pain, though. I think they should split from that group.
I think the problem is Karrion Kross. I think the concept of the Final Testament, I'm with. The problem is they have the wrong guy as the front man. He's not a front man. He's not. He's really, if anything, at best, he's a henchman, but he's not a front man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I like the group. Maybe it's because I like 4 out of the 5 members. I love the Authors of Pain, Paul Ellering. I think Scarlett's a great like voice and manager persona. It's just Karrion. I never understood the hype behind Karrion Kross. It's just not something that ever got over with me.
Yeah, I'm with you. He might want to head to AEW maybe.
And of course, we learned that the next iteration of Punk vs. Drew McIntyre is going to be a strap match. And it's a good old-fashioned strap match where you have to touch all 4 corners to win. This is not... I guess as soon as I saw Punk whipping him with the belt last week, part of me was like, are they really going to do a strap match? So I think, they'll make it work, but this definitely wasn't the match I was expecting for the second match in their feud. What do you think? Punk versus Drew strap match.
I mean, it could be. I think it's going to be entertaining. But I think that they're not done with this feud. So, however it goes, because most people would say it's due for Punk to get a pin, but I don't know, because in this particular feud, Drew is kind of like the heel. Usually, if you have a great heel and he does his part, the heel gets over more time than not. They usually lose the final battle, but they win a lot of the other ones leading up to it. So it wouldn't shock me if Drew still won.
I honestly, at this point, I would have Drew win. I think a win does Drew, a lot more good than it would for CM Punk. CM Punk's 45. At this point, CM Punk's pretty bulletproof. As long as you don't have him lose every single match he wrestles in for the next 2 years, you can have him lose and it won't hurt him at all. And I think this win just overall does more for Drew than it would for Punk. So honestly, let's give Drew the win. I want to see it.
Yeah, look, and I think Punk is, like you said, he's so bulletproof, so proven that he doesn't need a belt to have a following or have any heat. And to your point, him losing this match, I don't think it impacts his stature at all. The only way it could impact his stature even a little bit to me would be if Drew just out now beat him with a straight pin, and there's no way that's going to happen. So yeah, I think if we're going to extend this feud out, let Drew get the win and set them up for another match, maybe potentially some kind of cage match or something like that. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and if he does win, I definitely think Peanut apparently has a lot to say about it too.
Sounds like Peanut's a Punk fan,
right? Yeah, if he does not agree with Drew winning, there's a concert going on at the park next door, so they're going a little nuts right now. I think if you do have Drew, Punk win though. Their third match at Bad Blood would definitely need to be a Hell in a Cell match, and I think Drew would definitely need to win that one. That I will accept a Punk win if that means the third match is Hell in a Cell at Bad Blood, but if it's anything less, yeah, just let Drew win here. Another fun thing happened on Bronson's Reed next actual feud. Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman. It's going to be a battle of, big meaty men. I absolutely love it. A good old fashioned hoss fight. Everybody loves the acrobatics and everything, but honestly, I've always been a big fan of watching two heavyweights get in there and just hit high power moves and slug it out.
Yeah, I like it. And yet there's a part of me that I'm of the opinion that Bronson Reed will find a way to win that match. Like, they're both heavyweights, but for him being a heavyweight, Bronson Reed is really agile. He's much more agile than Strowman, and Strowman's not very agile. He's pretty straight up. He's all power. Bronson Reed can move for a big man. It would not shock me if he beats Strowman and then he does to Strowman what he's done to everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm sure Seth will be back soon enough, and I'm sure that'll be his actual for his first actual really big feud, him versus Seth. Great place for Bronson Reed. Just like a month and a half ago or so, he wasn't doing much besides maybe occasionally appearing on Raw and winning a quick match.
Yeah.
Now he's feuding with some of the bigger names in the company, so good for him.
I like it. I think that he has the talent and ring ability to be elevated. I will say though, if he's going to be elevated, the only way that it's going to work, he's got to be a heel.
Yeah, I don't see good guy Bronson really going very far
at all.
And then naturally, of course, we have that was pretty much all that happened on Raw, outside of the last thing that happened, because we already touched on Orton and Gunther. Him and Kaiser were the main event. Orton beat Kaiser with an RKO. Fun match. The big angle that happened on Raw, the Judgment Day, finally were able to one-up Rhea and Damian, beat them down. And that's absolutely the right call. The Terror Twins, as they've called them, they've gotten the upper hand on them for a couple weeks now, and this was the week to finally let them get one over on them, and boy did they ever.
I do like the name though, Terror Twins. I kind of like that. I'm feeling that. Like I could see that on a hoodie or a t-shirt, so I'm liking the name Terror Twins.
Yeah, no, me too. I enjoy the name.
And I think they're going to extend this feud a little bit. Maybe it comes to the end at this coming pay-per-view, or maybe they stretch it out a little bit longer. Like you said, maybe the Terror Twins get their revenge in the next pay-per-view, and then it sets up for Liv and Rhea with the belt on the line to end their feud or end their situation.
No, absolutely. And of course, we all know the big show. Right before that, we had Friday Night SmackDown. And we'll go right to the main talking point with that one. SmackDown was pretty good. They had some good matches, Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. I'm not going to lie, though. Andrade is another guy where I think he's a really good wrestler, but I also don't really get the hype with him outside of he's a really good wrestler. I've seen a lot of people say push Andrade, but he's kind of almost in that Karrion Kross tier for me, where he's just not an interesting talker. He's just not an interesting character outside of the wrestling ring, and I have trouble getting behind him.
I think his problem is with Andrade is, Brett, I think he's kind of like a face. And I don't, the same way certain guys, you don't see certain guys as faces. I don't see him getting a big push as a face. But if Andrade was a heel and he came in with a little bit of more of a grind, because he's such a clean wrestler. Even when he lost to Carmelo Hayes, and he'd beaten him a couple times already, what did he do? He put his hand out. He's trying to be a good sport, and Carmelo Hayes was being a jerk to him. But it took a lot even for then for Andrade to snap. I think he's a talented wrestler, but I'm like you. I don't think he has the charisma, at least as a face. I don't think he has the charisma to ever get a big push. I think unless he changes something about his image or his gimmick, he'll always be a mid card performer.
Absolutely. But we all know what we all tuned in for on Friday. Roman Reigns came out, and once again he attacked the Bloodline. He attacked Solo, and he took out Tama Tonga, and he reclaimed the Ula Fala, but only for a moment because Jacob Fatu in a walking boots shocked him and hit him with the super kick. And they hit him with that. They beat him down, power bombed him through the table, gave him that old Shield style triple power bomb, and that was that. Honestly, that was a lot of fun to watch. I thought that was great. Jacob Fatu, man, he's just different. He looked like $1,000,000 coming out there in a walking boot and just beating down Roman anyway.
He looks like, I mean, every match I watch him in, he pops because of his size, because of his athleticism, his explosiveness. It just works. And I think if you keep him in the current role that he's in the storyline, you can kind of keep him under wraps. But at some point, because he's such an electric talent, he could separate and go out on his own, Brett. Like he's that a talented performer. But yeah, you kind of saw it coming. And it just extends the bloodline because we want this story. We know it's going to come to an end, but it's not coming to an end anytime soon. There's going to be more of a buildup because right now Roman is trying to handle business on his own. It's not going to work. So you and I both know sooner or later he's got to get Jay back. He's got to get a crew together. I guess that means even bringing Jimmy back. But yeah, he's got to get a crew together because right now the numbers game is not in his favor. Look, Solo's a handful by himself, but if you factor in Jacob Fatu, that's a monster. That is an absolute monster.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie though, my favorite member of the new bloodline, and it just might be because he's just like accidentally so funny. I think it's Tonga Loa. That
Really?
man, that man, he just I don't know what it is. He just continuously messes up everything that he tries to do, but it's always in like a natural and almost very funny way, and he's just growing on me. Like Jacob Fatu's a monster, and he's definitely the most dominant member of the bloodline. But Tongaloa, I'm telling you, there's just something about watching him just proceed to screw everything up naturally that's hilarious.
I think Tonga Loa is the Buddy Roberts of the bloodline. He means well, but more times than not, it doesn't go quite as well as he means it.
Right, and it was an omen when he first debuted and like mistimed his spot, and the ref had to roll himself out of the ring, and
Right.
then he missed the low blow on the next pay per view, and it just keeps happening, and it to me it like I don't think he's doing it on purpose, and the way he always just naturally messes things up, it's just growing on me. I just think he's a funny character.
Yeah, look, I think he'll get better, but obviously he's not a natural in the ring, but he's a personality. He's definitely got talent. But when you've got Solo, when you've got Jacob Fatu, I mean, that's more than enough talent right there just with those two to cover up any miscues. So, and again, I enjoy the storyline. It just gives us another storyline that we can follow, and I'm not in a rush for it to come to an end at all.
No, absolutely. And
I
of
want
course,
more family members to come out.
they got plenty.
I
That,
know,
that,
right?
that bloodline is absolutely wild. I think I was reading like some of them have like 8 kids on their own. I'm like, oh, good grief. We're gonna have like Bloodline 13.0 in like 30 years. So
Yeah, I mean, that think about the family history they already have. Even if you just split some of the next generation in half, they're going to be part of the WWE story at some point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, I got a fun topic for us here. We've been getting some teases for a possible future match. Stone Cold said he's open to the idea of wrestling, and he said he'd be open to wrestle CM Punk. That's been a dream match of a lot of people for forever. Obviously, CM Punk just reciprocated the idea. Their personalities clash. Stone Cold versus Straight Edge, and my concern is it's a dream match for sure, but
Too late.
yeah,
Yeah.
is this a dream match happening too late, Mo? Is my
Yeah.
question.
Maybe I'm the odd man out on this one. I don't want to see this matchup. Not now. Not now. I don't want to see it now. Punk can still perform somewhat at a high level, but look, the last time I saw Austin in the ring, it wasn't that impressive. He's clearly on the other side of what he can do as an in-ring talent, and neither one of them at this stage of their careers are the kind of guy that can carry the other guy. So I don't want to see that because it won't be what people you've waited. I get that you've waited for it, but you've waited for it to the point where if you get it now, you're going to be disappointed times 10. Let's just keep it what it is. That way we can envision it in another way. Just keep it a dream matchup. I don't want to see those two lock up. I don't want to see Steve Austin in the ring altogether anymore. It's a wrap. I don't want unless he does something like at a big main event, sort of like what Undertaker did at the past WrestleMania, where he comes in, he stuns somebody, and he gets out the ring. I'm fine with that, but I don't want to see him in a match.
Yeah, I think Stone Cold had his perfect send off at 38 when he came back and he wrestled Kevin Owens and they got through that match. And overall, it was good. It was a fun match. In the same breath, though, you could tell that Stone Cold was just very limited as to what he could do at this point.
Right.
And I'm going to guess that 3 years later, that hasn't gotten any better. So this would, at the end of the day, this would be a match where the build-up would just be a lot better than the actual match itself.
I agree because the one thing both these guys can still do at a high level, they can both grab the mic and talk a lot of stuff. And that alone, that would be box office. The smack talk would be better than the match. That's the problem.
Oh, absolutely. So speaking of dream matches, Mo, thought we'd have a little more fun here.
Why not?
Right. Fantasy booking. Everybody loves the fantasy book. Mo, if you were to fantasy book your own wrestling card up to 8 matches, won't make anybody do all 8 if they don't wanna. What would be some of your dream matches that you would want to see on your dream pay-per-view?
In no particular order, because I literally just I know we were talking about doing this, but there are so many great wrestlers from today and yesteryear. I really had a tough time deciding. So I threw some together. Here's one of mine. I've got Shawn Michaels versus Seth Rollins in a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Okay, that would be a lot of fun.
Another one I have Kurt Angle versus Gunther.
That would be a fun, hard-hitting brawl. Ooh.
Yeah, I love that. And what's the one I wrote down? I just wrote down. I was thinking about a brawl, and I thought Bunkhouse Brawl, Mankind versus Dusty Rhodes.
Okay. No, that's fair. Whew. No, you got a good variety there. I love it. I love it.
And what's the other one? I've got Bret Hart versus Randy Orton, 60-minute Iron Man match. Most falls wins.
If anybody knows how to work an Iron Man match, those two have both been in one. So
Yeah,
overall, that would be a fun hour. That'd be a fun hour of television.
yeah. I mean, I had a couple more. I've got I've got steel cage triple threat tag team matchup. The Freebirds versus the Usos versus the Hardy Boys, no DQ.
Oh, I say everybody's trying to jump off the top of that cage.
Yeah, well, I put see with no DQ, yeah, it makes everybody dangerous. But if there was no DQ and it was just straight wrestling and things of that nature, I think that lessens the Freebirds. When you make it no DQ and it becomes more about physicality and other things, they become they become the most dangerous team. So it'd be a lot better match.
No, that's fair enough.
And my last match is Sasha Banks versus Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair triple threat match.
That would be fun.
That's
that's one we could still possibly get one day.
Yeah, it's funny of all those I mentioned, that one can actually happen, right?
Yeah, this one was tough for me because there's a million of them, but I didn't know what to do with my favorite wrestler of all time, and that's the Undertaker. Because there's two matches that I'd love to see him in, and I'm not sure which one I would like more. Obviously, we have the good old fashioned Taker versus Sting, the dream match that everybody wanted since the start of the Monday Night Wars.
Oh yeah.
But I also think that a really fun match, and we got a version of this match. Obviously, we got it in like 2015 with Taker, well past his prime. I think the Ministry of Darkness versus the Wyatt family.
Oh wow.
Would have been a really fun brand warfare. So overall, I think I'd go with Taker and Sting because, that one we haven't seen. We got some version of the second one at least, but putting the two like darkest factions in WWE against each other.
Yeah, I like both, but that the two factions, because of all the different characters involved, I feel like that if it started in one pay-per-view, it would spill over into another. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I don't think that feud ever would get settled in one pay-per-view. There'd be so much to do.
Yeah, I'd go Taker and Sting because I have one more thing of faction warfare on my pay-per-view. Mind you, I'm a huge fan of factions. And I figured why not say screw it, we're going to have fun. We're going to put maybe the three of the biggest factions of all time in a match and see how it goes. And we got a version of this match. I'm talking the Shield versus Evolution. We got that in 2014, and those matches were really good. But imagine the build-up and how fun it would be if we added D-Generation X.
DX? Wow.
We're throwing a lot of star power, and honestly, the shenanigans that would come from that feud would be absolutely 10 out of 10.
I think it would be a great feud between the three factions, but man, I think DX would have the most fun because you know what they do, right? They get in your head. They like to have fun. Like they would drive people crazy. DX at their best, they're a blast.
Yeah, I'm a huge, and I had to throw in the Shield. They're my favorite faction of all time. I jumped right on them at 2014 or 2012 when they made their debut and putting Ryback through a table. I loved them immediately.
I like the Shield. I didn't want them to break up, but at the same time, I knew that all three guys were talented enough that they could go on. They were meant to be bigger things as solo performers. So it didn't shock me that it had to come that way.
Yeah, I'll say, and I wanted a couple of pure wrestling matches on here too. So I maybe put four of the best performers in the world in two separate matches. I actually put in my favorite wrestler from AEW of all time. Had to put in Kenny Omega. If anybody hasn't seen him, that man can wrestle. They call him the best bout machine, and he lives up to that nickname. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen Kenny Omega wrestle?
I have seen him wrestle.
Well, I'm putting him up against the showstopper, Mr. WrestleMania. I'd love to see Kenny Omega versus Shawn Michaels.
Mm.
Give those two 30 minutes or 45 minutes and imagine the magic that they could do. And my other match, my other dream match, if I needed pure wrestling, and I know I'm leaving out a lot of pure wrestlers. There's so many good wrestlers out there, but I
There
don't think I
are.
can match up. There's one matchup that we got a taste of because they happen to match up in the greatest Royal Rumble that I couldn't imagine how good it would be in their primes. I'm talking about Bryan Danielson or Daniel Bryan versus Kurt Angle.
Oh, I'm here for that one. Both of those guys are amazing wrestlers with incredible stamina. I'm here for it. And you know what? Low-key, he didn't start off as one of my favorite wrestlers, but Kurt Angle's one of my favorite wrestlers. He is. What can't Kurt Angle do in a ring?
That's one of my favorite things about Kurt Angle. The man was one of the best wrestlers in that. And there are guys that were like more athletic and can do more flips and were agile, but not many of them were more versatile in a ring than Kurt Angle because he was a perfect blend of just strength and athleticism. Or if you needed him to wrestle Shawn Michaels for an hour, he could, but you need him to go brawl with Brock Lesnar the next
And
night
he
or the Big
could.
Show.
Right.
He could do that
Right.
too. And there's not a lot of guys that can master multiple styles and just do things like that and just be convincing about it.
I was a big fan of Angle. I remember when he had Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. What were their names? What was the name of their little faction?
Oh,
Uh,
was that just? I think it was just Team Angle.
yeah. I think you're right. But yeah, look, and I thought those guys are both incredibly talented on their own as well, especially Sheldon Benjamin. So yeah, I'm just a big fan of Angle as a performer in general.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I had to throw some heavy hitters here at the end. And this one was really tough for me. You can't make a dream card without having Stone Cold on it. The man who rebelled against the establishment. I'm trying to think what would be a dream Stone Cold man. What would draw my card the most money? Then it hit me in the face. We put him against the champ. We put him against John Cena. A lot of people say John Cena also, he's the corporate guy. They made he's a corporate made character.
He is a company man.
He's a very, very big company man against the man who's just anti-establishment. The match would be a lot of fun, but not only that, those pre-match promos, watching Stone Cold spray him with milk, that'd be a great time.
Oh, and Cena talking trash on the mic, and Stone Cold, giving him the finger. That would be. I'm here for that one because I like the idea of them because I think both of them together at their peaks, that makes for an amazing feud.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the one I was having trouble with because there's like 27 options. The Rock.
Uh-huh.
And with The Rock, there's just 87 different options that, who would you want to see The Rock wrestle? And honestly, that's the one I couldn't figure out, but that's because there's so many great options because
he can work with anybody.
Right, he can work with anybody. Like I almost said Roman Reigns, but then I realized, okay, we're actually that's a dream match, but we're probably getting that next year or the year after. Because that's funny, because that was my first reaction. I want to see Rock and Roman. So honestly, I'd probably have that on my dream card. And it just got me excited to the fact that we're hopefully building towards that match soon.
I'm excited for the match. It's just that I would have loved to see that match. Obviously you can't go back in time, but I would have liked to see Rock and Roman 5 or 6 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can obviously Rock's never going to be at his prime, but if you look at him in the shape that he's in great shape. Roman's a terrific performer, so I have no doubt they can make that work. More importantly, because The Rock is so gifted on the mic, I think everything he does on the mic is gonna build up that match if and when it happens, because I'm sure the backdrop, Brett, it'll have something to do with the bloodline, which is why I think this feud extends a lot longer than most think, because I think at some point Rock gets involved. And just when you think he's coming to help out the tribal chief, he's probably gonna clock him upside the head.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I was thinking it's so tough to tell when that's going to happen because I very well think that could be either that could happen maybe as early as Survivor Series or
Yeah.
maybe even WrestleMania night 1. Let's because I think that they're probably building towards The Rock versus Cody as one of the main events. He already said he's coming after Cody. That's probably one of the Mania main events for next year. Which, if I had to guess, I think they can easily stretch out. I think it very well could be Roman versus Jacob Fatu for next year's at WrestleMania. You can hold off the match for that. I think you can easily hold off a one-on-one match between them for that long.
You can hold it off, but it depends on how you hold it off, right? Because if they're feuding, leading up to WrestleMania, but they're not each other's opponents, you can set up something for down the road, right? What if Roman and Jacob Fatu are in a match and Rock costs Roman that match, and then the next night Rock's taking on Cody for the belt, and maybe he's a beat away from winning it all, and Roman takes Cody's legs and puts it on the rope, or whatever should happen, right? Maybe a Superman punch or something like that. Because I think that the next WrestleMania, I don't think they go head to head, not Roman and Rock. I think they're trying to stretch this out, at least that matchup, for the one after that. Or maybe another pay-per-view right before, but I do think you're right about this. I don't think Roman and Cody lock up this coming WrestleMania. It would not shock me if it's Roman and Rock, and I think, or not Roman and Rock, but Rock and Cody, and maybe Roman costs Rock the championship.
Yeah, what I think it just hit me. If I'd have had The Rock fight somebody in history, I'll go a little farther back. It very well just might end up being the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Ooh,
that would be
a good one.
That'd be a lot of fun. Just the pre-match promos with The Rock and Savage's unhinged promo work.
Savage would lose it. He would lose it. He's going to attack The Rock several different times because you and I both know The Rock's going to impersonate the Macho Man. He's going to impersonate him.
And he's going to make fun of Miss Elizabeth, which is going to be a big no-no.
Yeah, that's going to get him knocked in the head because he's going to say something to Elizabeth about pie.
But, honestly, Mo, I could see with The Rock and Roman, I can see it already now. You have, Roman and his, thinks he ends everything with the bloodline, Survivor Series, War Games, in a War Game match. I could see him and Cody part 3 actually happening at the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
And I could very well see that's where, because I think it might be imperative to give, Roman maybe give him a month and a half or so, or 2 months break from the bloodline, have him feud with somebody else. And I think that guy is Cody. So have them wrap up their feud at War Games, have him go feud with Cody. He thinks he's done with the bloodline, except they try to come out and help him with Cody. But maybe that's where The Rock comes out to, help him, but ends up costing him the match and puts him into a feud with The Rock and the bloodline again. Now we got Rock and Cody.
Yeah.
But now it's an easy setup too for The Rock or for Roman and Jacob Fatu, because I think that's gonna be the match that they go with if they're not going with Rock and Roman. Like,
no, I think that's really possible.
Yes, I'm very convinced that. Like, if I had to guess the Mania card for right now, some matches I think are going to happen. I think it is Rock and Cody. Roman Fatu. John Cena's the toughest one.
Right, because this is his walking away match. Who
I
who do you match him up with?
see. I have a legacy idea, but I also have a very newer idea. My legacy idea is John Cena and Randy Orton have never had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. I think you have John Cena versus Randy Orton for the final time at WrestleMania. I think that's the if you want to go the legacy route, that's probably the answer. However, the if you want a fresh opponent, John Cena's looking for that 17th world title, and he's known for going after he's always kind of gone after bigger, like he's always had foreign heel rivals, bigger ones, like from the Vince McMahon era style booking. So
You think it's Cena versus Gunther?
Gunther.
Wow. That's big game hunting times 10 to go out on. Like, I think that would be an amazing match. I don't know. Would they go for the shock value though and give Cena that? I don't think they give him that belt, but I think it might be an amazing. It's going to have a lot of false finishes. I don't know. That would be. You know what, Brett? All I can say is if that match materializes, I'm here for it. I love that idea. The Orton thing would be great too because, like you said, they've never locked up at WrestleMania. But I do like the idea of him and Gunther matching up. And Cena going for that, trying to break that tie. I love that idea.
And I know. Yeah, Randy did say he wants another match with Cena. The question is, I think it's inevitable. I think there's like 3 matches that are pretty inevitable that I think we'll get one more of. Obviously, I think we go Randy versus Cena at some point. I think we probably revisit CM Punk versus Cena at one point. And I think it's very possible that we also might revisit AJ Styles versus John Cena. Those two had a banger after banger. Those two have insane chemistry. So I could see them, dusting off that feud one more time for us. Braun Breaker versus Cena would be a lot of fun.
Forgot about AJ Styles. Kind of been slept on because he stepped away for a minute. Yeah, that would be an amazing matchup. I think Cena trying to take on the unstoppable object like Braun Breaker. Again, that's big game hunting, but in a weird way, I find it more believable that Cena could take out Breaker than Gunther because I think Cena's experience could help him beat Breaker. I think Breaker could be overconfident, whatever you want to call it. That one right there, if he wanted to break, well, he wouldn't break the tie because that wouldn't be the belt I'm looking for. But I could see him taking out Breaker. I could. I could see him beating Breaker and then turning right around and vacating the belt.
I'll say, and honestly, I would have Cena. I think I would have him feud with either Gunther or Breaker because I just think that Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes is such a great story to tell for WrestleMania. It's right there. It's too easy with them coming up together in a legacy. That would be a 5-star. That'd be a phenomenal match. That'd be a phenomenal build. We'd get, bad guy Randy again. When Randy decides he's evil, he's an absolute menace to society. So I'd probably go John Cena versus like Gunther and then Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes.
I'll say this. When Randy Orton's a face, he's a terrific wrestler. When Randy Orton's a heel, he wins titles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he could become a Triple Crown champion if he wins the IC title, so Breaker would also make sense too. Oh, and of course there's CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. I think they're saving that one for Mania. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. Just in general, like with John Cena, there's just going to be so many fun matches that we can have, and I'm excited to see how they decide to go about this.
I am too, and there's so much talent out there. Maybe he goes, not just for bigger names. Maybe Cena, because Cena has always been that kind of guy that He has no problem taking on young, up and coming, talented guys. What if Cena matched up with Dragunov? You know what I mean? That I think that would be an amazing matchup because Dragunov is a hell of a performer. Like I think he would push Cena. He might take Cena out altogether, but I think that would be an entertaining matchup.
It's funny because I have a friend at work that I talk wrestling with, and I was talking to him about that same thing because we were talking about final opponents for John Cena, and I came up with the idea. I was like, well, what if they gave him somebody who's a really good wrestler as a final opponent and let John Cena kind of go out like what Sting and AEW did, where they just found him the best wrestlers to go against. They gave him a 5-star match to go out against, and he won the match. Like I could see them doing that with John Cena. Like find just if let's find a really good last opponent for him that can still really go in the ring, and just let's see if we can give Big Match John that last big match. And one of the first names that came to mind for me was Dragunov.
You know how there's certain performers you can appreciate this, Brett. Like you said, when you first saw the Shield, you just knew those were your guys, right? You knew
Yeah.
those were your guys. Like I'm honest. I'll keep it 100. The first time I saw The Rock, I was like, this guy sucks. Because obviously he was in the Rocky Maivia stage, right? And they came out and he had that weird looking costume where he looked like he was wearing some kind of like vomit or something. He had a look where he just looked doofy. And I thought, all right, well, this guy won't last long. He won't be here long. And then he reinvented himself. And I was like, where's this guy been? Like, obviously, when he joined Nation of Domination, his personality had shifted and he became The Rock. I guess I'm saying that to say this. The first time I saw Dragunov wrestle, I already knew, Brett, that this is my guy. I like this guy. There's something about him that even if you don't see it right now, at some point, that guy's going to have multiple belts under his waist.
Yeah, the first time I saw him wrestle was actually, ironically, against Gunther. And it was at NXT, like, UK, like, 35. It was, like, a big special event. And it was the match where Dragunov ended Gunther's, like, 830-day NXT UK title reign. And right away, I was like, oh, man, okay, I'm sold. And then I watched him, you watch him on NXT slowly, like, also transform his character into, like, the Czar. And he had a fun feud and match also with, like, Tony D'Angelo. And I'm like, oh, well, this guy can wrestle and he has, he can do great character work. Yeah, at that point, I'm like, yep, sign me up. I can't wait to see him on the main roster.
That's me. Sign me up. I get it. He's going to have to wait his turn to really be part of the upper echelon, but you can see it. Like the way they tried to push Karrion Kross, the way they try to elevate him, if they gave Dragunov even a little bit of that push, trust me, he would pop. He would pop.
I guess I'm curious. I feel like that and not only do I want John Cena, like I said, not only do I want John Cena, to revisit old feuds. I would love it if they revisited the old feuds at the places that it was like most popular at, right? Like if John Cena and CM Punk are gonna have one more match, we got to do that thing at Chicago. They probably do the United Center. It's a lot bigger, but
House.
one night only. Let's go back to the Allstate Arena and relive Money in the Bank, where they actually had their instant classic that everybody remembers. What if we brought John Cena? And like I said, this is another small venue. I don't think they would do it again. But what if we brought John Cena back one more time to the Hammerstein Ballroom, where obviously the biggest, most vile Cena crowd we've ever seen gathered for ECW One Night Stand 06. So on top of like, old feuds, I would just love to see them have matches too at just some of these older locations that kind of help define the career of John Cena.
I'll admit, I know it's a thing of the past, but man, I miss those ECW venues. I miss those ECW crowds. You know what I mean? Like they gave you everything. Smaller venues, but they were packed to the gills, and those crowds were so passionate, and they appreciated those performers because obviously in ECW they were allowed to cut loose. Let's say it's no holds bar. Where else could a guy like the Sandman be somebody? You know what I mean? Like let's keep it 100. Sandman isn't the most gifted wrestler in the ring, not a body beautiful guy, not a powerhouse. But what he was he was a great personality. Him and that kendo stick that just worked. That worked. Where could a guy like Sabu, who abuses his body the way he did, work? I think the guy that was closest to being a traditional wrestler, but he fit in the early stages, was Shane Douglas.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Shane Douglas, he didn't seem like he was cut from that, but he showed you he could thrive in that environment. But he was the closest guy to being more of a traditional performer, and he fit great in ECW. Like I miss all that. I just want John Cena, Brett, as a wrestling fan who appreciates everything he did. I just want him to go out on an incredible note.
oh absolutely. The one thing I remember from every ECW event, I think you'll appreciate this. Bill Alfonso and that fucking whistle every 2 seconds in RVD matches.
Right.
Like if you're ever wondering if he was there, he would let you know.
I miss that, and I miss Joey Styles' high screechy voice with the oh my god. I miss that because you kind of got caught up in that screechy voice during matches. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Joey Styles was a great announcer. It's not many people that could call live pay-per-views by themselves, but Joey Styles would do that for ECW, and he was
did.
amazing at it.
I missed that. A lot of people have been wondering with WWE headed for Netflix, what would change? And I thought, I guess it might be a little bit more physical, maybe a little bit more violent, but I don't think they're not trying to go back to the Attitude Era. Maybe they're going to give you taste of it here and there, but I think they like the storytelling. They like what they're doing right now. So I don't think it's going to be a huge change.
And I think that's smart because obviously going to Netflix, they just have more freedom, right? But I also think it's smart to just not go straight into the whole Attitude Era everything.
Agreed.
Because that just would kind of dilute it, right? So now when they do like randomly decide let's get more vulgar, get more extreme, it just has more value as opposed to them just jumping in right away and start like dropping F bombs every 3 seconds. Or
I agree. It's got to be gradual, and it's got to be more like here and there, because what they're doing now, the formula works. So I think that you integrate the rougher edges, if you will, in little spots here and there. And I know. Look, WWE's following is insane already. You get them on Netflix, it's going to blow up even more, and obviously, it's a win for Netflix just having them. So yeah, I'm excited for where the company is going forward. I love what Triple H and Creative is doing right now. And I have to assume that even as you and I are talking, Triple H is probably thinking like you and I, what different venues, what different matchups can we set up for John Cena on the farewell tour? And I'm here for it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Before we that was all I had really. Before we get out of here, Mo, is there anything else you wanted to ask or answer?
No, just love chopping up, talking about wrestling. Thank everybody so much. Appreciate you, Cool, for stopping by. Everybody that's listening to us, make sure you check out Meaty Boyz next Tuesday night, 9:00. Make sure you get a chance to check out Brett and I on N1 Podcast Thursday night as well at 9. And check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the comment, Steve. Chase, I see you giving us a like, so I appreciate you. So thank you for everybody for tuning in, and we hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night.